All Hallows Eve, that time of year, all creatures from beneath are unleashed to the world. It's time to return to where we all started. Another year, but the scares continue. Another month, but the fear proceeds to rise. This is the Venom of Horrors 2, The Quest for Shet.
Hello and welcome to the second annual Venom Month of Horrors. Another year, and it doesn't get any less scary. And today, we're returning to the world of Hannibal Lecter. On this day, 1 year ago, we looked at the 1991 classic The Silence of the Lambs, starring Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. One of the greatest thrillers in history, but unbeknownst to many, that was actually a sequel to 1986's Manhunter. This one follows Will Graham, played by William Peterson, who is a retired FBI officer who basically had a bit of a meltdown after capturing serial killer and cannibal Hannibal Lecter, this time played by Brian Cox. A new serial killer case begins with the perpetrator being called the Tooth Fairy. No, seriously.
I've heard officers referring to this killer as the Tooth Fairy. Yeah.
The Rock?
No, it's not.
Despite making promises to his wife, played by Kim Grice, he takes on the case while also seeking help from Lecter until the big climactic showdown, and it's basically the same setup as Silence of the Lambs, but less interesting.
Thank you so much.
The movie, much like Silence, is based off of a novel by the same writer Thomas Harris, but the book was actually called Red Dragon. The film was going to have the same title, but a year before release, Dino De Laurentiis' film Year of the Dragon was a complete bomb, and they didn't want to copy their fate. I guess they're superstitious for some reason, huh? In addition, at the time, Bruce Lee was coming out with a lot of movies with dragon in the title, and they thought people would assume that this was a kung fu flick. Director Michael Mann actually hated the title of Manhunter, calling it inferior to the original name, and even Brian Cox hated it, calling it bland and cheesy. I just think it sounds like the name of a gay bar.
Oh yes, I love it here at Manhunter. You move it, man.
I don't think that's a very good idea.
David Lynch was the first choice to direct after making Dune, but he turned it down, finding the script too violent and degenerate. This was too violent. Grow some balls.
Yeah, but not now.
William Peterson, to prepare for the role, actually worked with the Chicago Police Department as well as the FBI to read some crime files. He also spoke to many investigators to learn how they deal with disturbing cases. Tom Noonan, who played the Tooth Fairy, who isn't Dwayne Johnson, researched other serial killers but was disgusted by them. He opted to play the part as if he felt like he was doing right by his victims and he wasn't actually believing that he was doing them any harm. He improvised a lot during his audition, and the woman opposite grew scared of his performance, so he ad-libbed to intentionally terrify her further, which is why he ended up getting the part. In fact, Noonan requested that none of his co-stars actually see him before their scenes were shot. This made the atmosphere on set incredibly intense, and people became genuinely afraid of him. William Peterson didn't see him until their climactic scene together right at the end. The part of Will almost went to Richard Gere, Mel Gibson and Paul Newman, but William Peterson got the job after his performance in To Live and Die in LA. However, afterwards, Peterson felt like he couldn't escape the character. He rehearsed for a play in Chicago, but he always felt like the same character was slipping back out. He ended up shaving his beard, cutting his hair and dyeing it blonde so he could see a different person in the mirror. Yeah, that will help with your acting. A haircut.
Why not?
John Lithgow, Mandy Patinkin, Bruce Dern, William Friedkin and Brian Dennehy were all considered for the part of Lecter before Brian Cox landed the role. Cox based his performance on Scottish serial killer Peter Manuel, who didn't have a sense of right and wrong, and the role was kept intentionally short so the audience would want more of him. Manhunter was released on August 15th, 1986 and ended up grossing a total of $8,620,929, making it the 76th highest that year, but due to some issues within the studio, the UK premiere was postponed for over a year until the 1987 London Film Festival. Originally it got mixed reviews. Some saw it as too stylish and that they focused too much on stylistic imagery, others also slamming William Peterson as the lead. Michael Mann's taste is overkill. His stylized approach is hokey and it comes across as a little more than just gimmicks.
Thanks.
Mann believes in style so much that he has very little belief left over for the characters or situations of his film, which suffers accordingly. The film's focus on style serves only to drain any notion of credibility from its plot.
Good for him.
The film's visuals and soundtrack are that of Miami Vice, where it's a chic, well-cast wasteland that delivers very little.
Very interesting.
The film's stylistic similarity to Miami Vice is probably the chief reason for its poor box office results.
Gotcha.
Its lack of a strong lead role caused it to fall apart like the shattered mirrors that figure in the crimes.
Why?
However, some people did like it, I swear. Time magazine praised its intelligent camera-batics and bold and controlled colour scheme. It's gripping all the way through and surprisingly non-exploitive, although the holes start to show through if looked for too carefully. The movie did however get nominated for the 1987 Edgar Award for Best Motion Picture, and Salon.com called it the best of the entire Lecter franchise, claiming it inspired the likes of Millennium and CSI. The Independent called it the most aesthetic-sized film of the entire 1980s, Film 4 called it the most refined screen adaptation of any of Harris's novels, which Sky Movie agreed with, and the movie began to grow in popularity in the 2000s to gain a huge cult following to this day. So how is this movie? Well, just picture Silence of the Lambs. But shit.
Yes!
No, seriously, I know this came first and it's the same writer, but this is the exact same story. Agent has a serial killer murder case, has to speak to Hannibal Lecter to help solve it, killer dies. The only difference is Hannibal doesn't escape in this one. This is literally Silence of the Lambs. But boring as shit. Ew, someone needed a tampon.
Intruder cut Charles Leeds' throat as he was rising, then shot Mrs. Leeds. Bullet entered right of her navel and lodged in her lumbar spine, but she died of strangulation. Moderate elevation of serotonin and marked increase of free histamine level in gunshot wound indicates she lived at least 5 minutes after she was shot. All her other injuries are post-mortem. Direction and velocity of bloodstains on east wall indicate arterial spray. Even with his throat cut, Leeds tried to fight because the intruder was moving to the children's room. Bloodstains on west wall of master bedroom and matted sliding marks on hall carpet remain unexplained, as does superficial ligature mark around Mr. Leeds' chest.
Okay, we get it, move on. He is literally describing every inch of the room for a goddamn crime scene. And then he proceeds to watch a home video of the family to analyse it all. I swear to God, do something!
Hello?
Mommy?
Well, is that you?
Yeah, it's me, honey. Look, I'll call you tomorrow. Go back to sleep.
That was pointless.
They found talcum powder on her leg, but there wasn't any talcum powder in the bathroom.
Oh my God, move on! This is what I mean. Silence of the Lambs had a murder case, but it was interesting. This one tells us about it. Show, don't tell. Do something.
You took off your gloves to touch her, didn't you? Didn't you, you son of a bitch? You touched her with your bare hands.
I really wish I cared what was going on. Brian Cox is pretty good as Hannibal, but he has nothing on Hopkins. He lacks the absent-minded look and the trance-like stare. I mean, he's creepy, but I don't really get the psychopathic vibe from him. He's just a bit of a smartass. Cox claimed that he played the part like a British public schoolboy.
Area code 301-555-6624.
The University of Chicago Department of Psychiatry.
301 is actually the area code for Maryland, not Chicago, but you know, whatever. Also, he somehow finds Will's home address from an operator because apparently it's just that simple. It was the 80s.
Mom, oh my gosh, it's alright. Stewardess?
Leave it to a woman to make it all dramatic. Just wake him up. Or hide the pictures. Or stop raising such a pussy.
You saw them pass by their bright windows. You watched the shades go down.
Oh, come on! Do Do something! You know, I've realised the problem with this film. In Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter was amazing, but Jodie Foster and the rest of the supporting cast were strong and interesting enough to carry the film on their own. Here, Hannibal was pretty good too, but the rest of the characters are just bland and boring. They have nothing. The murder case is bland and boring. It has nothing. So when you combine the two and have a boring character narrate about a boring case, you get a boring ass movie.
Listen, after we've worked the note, I want to replace it in Lecter's cell. I don't want Lecter to know that we found it. He might try to warn the killer somehow.
Oh hey, a clever moment! But don't worry guys. Things are about to seriously pick up. This is about to get as exciting as it will get. Are you ready? Because we're gonna analyse handwriting!
Those aren't ridges, it's just the texture of the paper. I can fume for a print, but can't guarantee the iodine stains that fade out.
Anhydrin? Pushed it with heat?
No, we couldn't wash it after. I can't get a print off this in the time you've got to get it back, Will.
How long do I have?
20 minutes max.
Main thing to find out is how was Lecter supposed to reply to him?
Which is probably the missing section. Because at the top it says, I hope we can correspond. Then comes the gap. This note was written in ballpoint. But it looks like Lecter went over this area with a felt tip pen and tore it away.
Riveting stuff! On a plus, there's the snowplow man from Snow Day.
Yeah, didn't think of that, did you? Oh.
How's your hearing? It's good. You'll wear a wire one way. We'll hear you, you won't hear us.
So why'd you ask how his hearing was?
Open your eyes. Listen as your reporter. Your job is to report, that's why you're here. And if you don't open your eyes, I'll staple your eyelids to your forehead. Well?
What the hell is this? Look at him! I am not taking this seriously, sorry. In Silence of the Lambs, we got Buffalo Bill, who was scary as hell. He tortured and abused women. Here we have the Tooth Fairy with pantyhose on his face. This whole movie is a joke.
Go.
I have had a great privilege. I have seen with wonder and awe the strength of the Red Dragon.
Jesus Christ, I swear most of this movie is reading. It's not a silent movie, guys. Oh, holy shit. Okay, that was awesome.
Ma'am, are you all right?
What? What is it? What is it? What's going on?
Ma'am, I think you should come back inside.
Or I might act a convincing emotion. But don't hold your breath.
Oh look, Will is trying to protect his wife and kid from the Tooth Fairy. I can't believe I'm reading this. This is ridiculous.
While Lecter was attacking college girls, and he killed them.
How?
In bad ways.
Truly groundbreaking dialogue. But hey, have the bird from Face Off play a blind chick who's stroking a tiger. Because why wouldn't a Hannibal Lecter movie have the bird from Face Off playing a blind chick who's stroking a tiger?
What are you watching?
The sequel, it's a lot better. Then she makes out with the killer. Now this may seem random and out of nowhere, but... No, it's still random and out of nowhere, but then it turns into a porno with how it's directed with the damn music.
When can I see you again?
So she just used him for sex. Bitch.
I wanted to congratulate you for the job you did on Mr. Lambs. I admired it enormously. Oh, what a cunning boy you are, Will.
Oh, look, Hannibal is back. Maybe he can save the rest of this film. Nah.
I see you there. And I see me desired by you.
Okay, what the hell am I watching? Look at this! They have given up at this point. This is just where they start to have random shit on screen with intense music playing. Have people staring out of vans. Have people kissing. We don't care. Stop trying to be artsy. Oh, look, it's a close-up of a hand gripping the car. Ooh, do something. They really focus on this whole love triangles thing. They really dedicate themselves to it. You know, credit for persistence at least.
It's 11:30 p.m. The full moon is happening tonight. Give it up. Forget this month. It's too damn late.
I gave it up. Till you showed up with pictures of 2 dead families.
Oh, who cares?
Donald Jacoby's 12th birthday party was April 14th. Sometime between April 14th and August 1, they changed the lock.
For the love of my penis in a toaster, do something!
And the Jacoby kit. And the padlock on the door. And you know you need a bolt cutter and every other goddamn thing.
And I knew no one gives a shit, so I'm basically talking to a bunch of empty chairs. Alright, at least I can say, this is really creepy. The Tooth Fairy blasts some music while he stalks the blind woman who we barely know and therefore have no connection with and therefore aren't invested in like we were with Jodie Foster, and the only reason we're meant to feel bad is because she's blind. It's still creepy though. And admittedly, the score throughout is actually excellent, but this is honestly one of the most disappointing films I have ever seen. I saw Silence of the Lambs first, so I went in expecting to love this, but the Tooth Fairy isn't interesting, the characters aren't interesting, the climax isn't interesting, this movie isn't interesting! And that's it! The big climax? Nah, he just gets shot and that's it! None of the big suspense the second film had. I mean, this kind of had a reason though, as production was shutting down at this point and the special effects team had left and the budget was reduced. And it ends with him and his wife and kid meeting back up in case anyone still cares about this crap, but then the absolute best scene in history plays! Yes! Glorious credits! After the impact of this film, CSI would then follow, as well as The X-Files, supposedly also inspired by this, before 1991's aforementioned sequel followed by another, Hannibal, and 2 prequels, Red Dragon and Hannibal Rising, and then a television series also called Hannibal, and the character forever goes down in history as a horror icon. Manhunter is just boring. Nothing of interest outside of Hannibal, and they try to compensate their lack of creative ideas by just putting out weird imagery to masquerade it as art. It's just a waste of time. Yeah, I didn't like Manhunter either. Dilligaff.